At least 8 people have died as Storm Fani slams into India's northeast coastline. With winds of over 200 kilometers per hour, it's the worst cyclone to hit the country in decades. Tens of thousands of people take to the streets across Algeria for the 11th week in a row. A month on from the downfall of President Bouteflika, they want all his former allies out too. And the political deadlock in Venezuela continues. Self-declared President Juan Guaido calls for more protests. But Nicolas Maduro is refusing to back down and claims he still has the support of the army. Hello and welcome back. I'm Ellen Gainsford, and this is the latest World News Bulletin on France 24. Some news just coming in. North Korea has fired a short-range missile from the east coast city of Wonsan. That's according to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff. We'll bring you more on that story as it develops. Now to India, where Storm Fani made landfall this Friday, bringing with it winds of up to 200 kilometers per hour. It's one of the biggest cyclones to hit the region in decades, and authorities aren't taking any chances. Over 1 million people have been evacuated from the storm's path in Odisha state in the northeast of the country. The cyclone is expected to lose some of its power as it heads towards Bangladesh on Saturday. Camille Nedelec has the details.
By Friday afternoon, Cyclone Fani was downgraded from extremely severe to very severe. But people around the country remain stranded as flights and trains are at a standstill.
We've been sitting here in Howrah since last night, but there are no trains. We're just sitting around and our money has now gone. What do we do?
Torrential rains and winds of up to 205 kilometers per hour battered Odisha state when the cyclone made landfall on Friday morning. The high winds toppled electricity poles, smashed fishing boats and destroyed older buildings and thatched houses. Odisha is used to extreme winds. In 1999, a super cyclone devastated the area and killed 10,000 people. And another in 2013 killed 50. So when the alerts came of a new cyclone, the authorities were ready. People were warned away from beaches and 1.2 million people were evacuated from low-lying land. 54 rescue and relief teams were dispatched to areas at risk of flooding. On Saturday, the cyclone is expected to move on to Bangladesh, where hundreds of thousands of people have already been evacuated.
Now to Mozambique, where 14 cases of cholera have been confirmed as the country deals with the aftermath of another powerful storm. The disease is spread through contaminated drinking water or food. Cyclone Kenneth killed at least 41 people, destroyed thousands of homes and wrecked water supply systems. It was the second massive storm to hit Mozambique in 6 weeks, after Cyclone Idai devastated the port city of Beira. Ebola deaths from the Democratic Republic of Congo's latest outbreak have hit a terrible milestone. The World Health Organization says that the number of people killed by the virus has exceeded 1,000. Attacks on treatment centres continue as health workers try to contain the virus's spread. 85 health workers have been wounded or killed. Efforts to control Ebola have been complicated by a volatile security situation and deep community mistrust. The outbreak was declared in eastern Congo in August and is already the second deadliest in history. Calm has returned to Benin after 2 days of protests following Wednesday's election. Hundreds of people took to the streets after controversial polls were held without any opposition candidates. But soldiers broke up the demonstrations with gunfire. According to the opposition, 7 people died in the clashes. President Patrice Talon had been seen as a modernizer, but there are now fears he's trying to extend his mandate illegally. And Algerians have taken to the streets for the 11th consecutive Friday. It's the last before the beginning of Ramadan. Protesters are determined to continue demonstrating throughout the holy month to call for an overhaul of the ruling elite. President Abdelaziz Bouteflika stepped down in April, but protesters aren't satisfied. They want all of his former allies out too. Selena Sykes has a story.
It's become a weekly ritual for thousands of Algerians. For the 11th consecutive Friday, demonstrators gather outside the main post office in the capital, Algiers, which has become a rallying point for protests against the political system. Turnout numbers may have fallen, but protesters are determined to keep going.
We still haven't got our independence. Now is the time. We're not scared of anyone. If I want to go out and voice my opinions, I do it. I don't fear anyone.
Friday's demonstrations in Algiers and across the country come days before the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan, starting on Sunday. These amateur images show peaceful protests in the eastern port city of Béjaha. Participants are calling for the resignation of the main figures of the country's political elite, who have dominated for decades, including acting head of state Abdelkader Ben Salah and Prime Minister Noureddine Bedoui, who were both part of former President Abdelaziz Bouteflika's entourage. The pair are in charge of Algeria's democratic transition, a process put in place in accordance with the constitution and supported by Army Chief General Ahmed Gaid Salah, who has called for dialogue between protesters and the state. Presidential elections are scheduled for the 4th of July. Opponents, though, think this date is too early to guarantee transparency.
Tensions are still simmering in Venezuela in the wake of Juan Guaido's latest failed attempt to oust Nicolas Maduro. Neither side is budging. Self-declared President Guaido has renewed calls for protests, while Maduro has vowed to bring any coup plotters to justice. Guaido has the support of over 50 countries, including France and the US, but for now the army remains loyal to Maduro. Camille Nedelec has the latest.
If at first you don't succeed, try again. Opposition leader Juan Guaido asked Venezuelans to gather at military bases in his latest bid to gain the army's support.
We know that we have to continue to protest. We know that Operation Freedom is a must and that we need to continue to protest peacefully and without violence.
The protests Juan Guaido called for on May 1st were to topple Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, but his efforts fell short. Nicolas Maduro is now cracking down on the opposition. The courts are investigating the defection of high-ranking official Edgar Zambrano. And Maduro is also taking aim at Guaido's mentor, Leopoldo Lopez, who fled to the Chilean and Spanish embassies after defying house arrest to protest.
They are running away, going from embassy to embassy. The justice system is looking for them, and sooner rather than later, they will go to prison to pay for their treason and their crimes.
On Friday, the Lima Group regional bloc were in Peru to discuss the situation. They want President Nicolas Maduro to resign. That's the crux of the crisis. Guaido has international support, but not enough military support back home. The result, an ongoing political impasse in the South American nation.
Now, in what could be a backlash to Brexit, both the major parties in the United Kingdom have taken a battering in local elections. The governing Conservatives have lost more than 1,200 seats, but the opposition Labour failed to capitalise, seeing large losses of its own. Now to Thailand, where preparations are underway for the elaborate 3-day coronation of King Rama X. He's been constitutional monarch for more than 2 years, but his official coronation was delayed as the nation mourned the death of his father. The official ceremonies begin this Saturday in the capital, Bangkok. Selina Sykes has more.
More than 2 years after ascending to the throne, King Maha Vajiralongkorn will finally be officially crowned this weekend. The 66-year-old paid his respects to one of Thailand's most sacred Buddhist relics in the final preparatory rituals in the capital Bangkok ahead of his elaborate 3-day coronation, accompanied by his new wife, Queen Safida, who was given the title on Wednesday after the pair married. Meanwhile, anticipation is growing on the streets of Bangkok, which are awash with yellow, a colour associated with the king that Thais are being encouraged to wear until his birthday in July to bring him luck. His coronation, which will be broadcast across Thai television channels, is the first in living memory for most of the population. Big crowds are expected to attend the historic occasion. I'm very excited and proud as it is getting closer to Coronation Day.
I'm lucky to witness the coronation because not everyone will get a chance. And also, I will get to see the new Queen. I'm excited to see her.
The coronation, which is expected to cost nearly €27 million, will begin at 10:09 on Saturday morning, an auspicious time picked by royal astrologers. It will consist of a mix of Buddhist religious ceremonies and Hindu Brahmin rituals. They'll mark the king's consecration as a Devaraj, or God King, and the upholder of Buddhism in Thailand. Ceremonies will continue through the weekend until Monday.
And finally, Japan's new emperor has greeted his people for the first time, appearing from a palace balcony. He succeeded his father, who abdicated on the 30th of April due to ill health, marking the start of the Reiwa era, meaning beautiful harmony. That's all from me for now. Stay with us here on France 24. Next up is a debate with François Picard.